Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry it's been a while. New job, different hours, just messing up everything. So I wanted to come to you today on this Wednesday evening, I should say. I'm sorry. A lot been going on since the last vlog. A lot of stuff going on. But I think the biggest one is the Supreme Court's decision on affirmative action. And again, just my opinion. I think it's a good decision. Obviously, we know a lot of people don't agree with it, obviously. I think, though, that a lot has to do with people relying on the government to make sure that they get a higher education. I think this is part of the problem. Part of the problem is that, minorities, specifically African Americans, are relying on the government to make sure they get into college. Now, when affirmative action came about under President Lyndon Johnson, I think it was part of the Civil Rights Act, it was obviously necessary. There was, I'm sure, a lot of universities that were extremely biased and whatnot. But what has happened over the years has been used as an excuse and been abused by colleges and universities to discriminate against the majority. I know people don't want to hear that, but that's the truth, because that's what's happening. I think that what's been happening is that now affirmative action has been used as a tool to make sure that the majority, us as European Americans or whites, whatever you want to call us, are not admitted as much as minorities, regardless if the person who is white is more qualified. Again, I don't agree with that, because if you're more qualified, then you should get in regardless of your color or race. Again, I believe race is a human construct. It's not something that should be defined at all. But the excuse I'm hearing is that every minority that's made to college is because of affirmative action. That's a bunch of nonsense. Is it a factor? Of course it is. But every minority? No. And if they have, they weren't aware of it. And even so, it's wrong. And I think what's happening is that the potential of affirmative action being taken away has scared many African Americans into believing that they'll never make it to college, or their children or their grandchildren, which is a bunch of nonsense. And are there always going to be the exceptions to the rule? Of course. Are there always going to be the bad people? Of course. But that's not the majority of it. But what's happening is because they've been so reliant on government to make sure that they get everything that they need, that when you start taking things away, people get scared. People get scared because now all of a sudden their free ride isn't free anymore. Now you're just like everybody else, which is the way it should be. And the other issue I have is if anybody believes in Martin Luther King's dream, that then affirmative action, soon to be no more, should be a good thing, because that means we've progressed as a society. Again, my opinion, my thoughts, but everybody should know that eventually all this stuff is going to end, that there will be no need for it. So why has everybody got an issue with it? And then the people that really have issues with it are people with money and are stars that are famous. They're celebrities. Why are you worried about it? Want to be social activists and want to be civil rights activists. They have money. They already have their, they think that they're representing everybody, and they're not. They're representing themselves. They think they're representing others, but they're really not. They're representing themselves and anybody that thinks like them. But in reality, if we believe in Martin Luther King's dream that everybody should be they shouldn't be, valued by their skin color, but should be valued by all your other characteristics, that your merits and your hard work, and not judged by the color of your skin, but the content of your character. Heaven forbid we should be, picked by the content of our character. Oh my goodness, what a horrible concept. But that's what certain African Americans and others, sympathetic whites and others, are telling you. That no, we can't get rid of affirmative action, because if we do, then all of a sudden blacks won't be able to, or African Americans won't be able to go to college. That's a bunch of nonsense and crap. That we should be considered solely on the color of our skin, and not the content of our character, or your hard work, or your merits. Heaven forbid. The world is absolutely backwards. And so this is what frustrates me. I obviously agree with the Supreme Court ruling. And of course, people are like, well, of course you do, because you're white. That's a bunch of nonsense. That's racist. And if you think that way, you're just as racist as the whites that say stuff about you. And if you're not racist, you're at least biased. But of course, everybody has a bias one way or another, no matter how big or small. But all these hypocrites that be getting all white folk, you doing the exact same thing. But it's okay for you to do it against white people, but it's not okay for white people to do it against anybody else. And it shouldn't be okay that anybody does it, regardless. But I don't think people truly believe in Martin Luther King's dream. They celebrate him. They want him to have a holiday and all these things, but they just faking it. They don't truly believe it. They want to keep it separate. They don't want equality. They want equity. And I don't get into equity either. They don't want equality at all. They want to keep the status quo. They want the government giving them everything. They want to give them affirmative action. They want the government to give them food stamps. They want the government to do all these things for them. They don't want to do nothing for themselves. That's the real problem. They're lazy. No matter what color you are, you're lazy. You're dependent on government to give you everything. And then when the Supreme Court finally makes a decision to take some of that away and puts the ownership on you as the individual, then all of a sudden now you got issues. And again, it's not just a black thing, it's a white thing too. Okay, white folk get food stamps too, just like everybody else does. But we're talking about not only affirmative action, but the reliance on government. So when the Supreme Court actually does something to try to end a policy that for the most part is not needed in the 21st century, now all of a sudden you got an issue because you're still stuck in the 60s when it was started, when it was put into the bill. I think it was part of the Civil Rights Act. And again, back in that time, it was needed. But it's not really needed anymore, in my opinion. And colleges and universities have abused it. And plus, for all the African Americans and blacks out there, if you want to go to college, you have a whole separate college system called a historically black college that you can go to. So you complain about colleges being too white, but then you don't complain about HBCUs being what they are. But then your argument would be, well, we need those because, people can't, now that's a bunch of nonsense. In my opinion, I think the HBCUs are out of fashion now. Again, if we want equality, if we believe in Martin Luther King's dream. Because if you don't, then you want separation, which is what HBCUs are. They're separate. So you want equality when it favors you, but when it doesn't favor you, but when it favors you, I'm saying this wrong. Okay?
In 10 miles, take exit 136 to merge onto I-459 toward Montgomery.
So when things are going well for you, you want things to stay separate. But when they're not going for you, then all of a sudden you want equality. No, it doesn't work that way. Stop being a hypocrite and either believe in the dream that Martin Luther King said on the steps, there in DC, or you don't. Stop being a hypocrite and saying this man is such a great man and all this stuff, but you don't even believe in probably one of the greatest speeches in history. Give me a break. You're just a hypocrite. That's all you are, a hypocrite. And you're only making yourself look stupid. And so that's my feeling on affirmative action. That's my feeling on it. I think it was a good move on the Supreme Court's part. I think it's time for us to get rid of a lot of these legacy policies that were needed when they were first put into action. But in the 21st century, for the most part, they're not needed. And for the few instances where there are still people out there, and there's always going to be people out there that are going to be racist and biased and all that, both black, white, brown, whatever color you are, there are always going to be those people. You're never going to get rid of them. But the majority of Americans don't believe in that nonsense. They believe in everybody being equal. And I believe they believe in working to get to that ideal, to what it says in the Constitution. Because obviously, it hasn't been that way for many, 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 many decades. But I believe we've come a long way as individuals to work towards that. Our government is a shambles, but irregardless, that a lot of that is out of our hands. Unfortunately, the majority of the people voted for our current president, and now you see I would think people would see now it's a mistake. Regardless if you like Trump or not, irregardless, it doesn't even matter. It was a mistake. And every day it shows things more and more of a mistake. So I just feel like the Supreme Court made the right move, just like they made the right move against Roe versus Wade. You already know my opinion on that, and if you don't, there's a vlog on my page where I discuss it. A lot more to talk about, but I know I wanted to kind of get that out there because I'm a little late on the matter. But yeah, that stuff needs to be. We need to move towards equality. We need to move to what the Constitution says. We need to be moving to that, and everybody will be better off for that. Everybody will be better off. So that's enough of that. I just wanted to talk about that ruling by the Supreme Court. Again, it happened a couple weeks ago, and I'm late on it again because my new job, my new hours, and everything has just been kind of wonky. But I wanted to make sure I came on here and said something about it. If you have any comments, as long as they're respectful, by all means, leave your comments below. Like, subscribe. Definitely like this video. That's what the algorithm is looking for. So please like this video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share it with your friends. I appreciate each and every person that's subscribed to this channel, each and every person that's made a comment and liked these videos. I really do appreciate it. I don't look down on small beginnings, and so I really appreciate y'all. And I've, for the most part, converted to more of the short form vlog than the long form podcast. Not that I won't do any more podcasts. I'm gonna try to do it before my son goes to college, but I just think that this short form is better. So again, I'm appreciative of everybody. And until the next time, we will talk to each and every one of you later on a hopefully another interesting subject. And until then, God bless you.